Gamecock fans, now you can have your coffee and also support the Gamecocks in a championship quest to get to the top of the SEC and the top of the country by going to GamecockCoffee.com and purchasing Rise and Shine New Orleans Roast Gourmet Coffee. All of your purchases go to benefit Garnet Trust and put NIL dollars in the coffer of the Gamecocks official NIL collective. Check it out today and support the Gamecocks NIL. Happy Friday, Gamecock fans, and good morning to all of you. Welcome to Coffee. This is JC Shurburtt. Today is Friday, March 14th, the year of our Lord 2025. Certainly happy that all of you have decided to grace me with your presence this morning. It is indeed an honor to talk about the Gamecocks each and every morning, Monday through Friday with you folks. I did want to say down the road, the week of the spring game, my wife and I plan to travel to South Carolina for that event and catch up with some friends. So bear with me a little bit. There may be a change in the coffee schedule just for that week. You will have episodes. Don't worry. Some may be pre-recorded. There may be a day of travel that we have to not do one, but just wanted to give you a heads up on that, barring anything unforeseen. And unforeseen things do seem to pop up sometimes with me. We will definitely keep this ball rolling. It's been fun. I think we're on episode 42 now, maybe 43. I don't 41, 42. I don't keep up with that. I have to go look it up. But anyway, thanks for making coffee very successful so far. Don't forget to get your coffee, GamecockCoffee.com. Also, download the app Underdog Fantasy. And help the Garnet Trust, 1801 Media. Use code 1801 for that. It's a fun game. Again, I am out of state most of the time, so there's different laws that apply to how you play the game. So don't just take my word for it. Test it out for yourself. But if you put in $10, play $5, it's kind of a lot of fun over/under types of props for individual players. You can win credits, prizes, whatever, depending on your state. The Garnet Trust gets $150. So it's like donating $150 for $10. So you get bang for your buck to help out the NIL cause at the University of South Carolina. Guess what? South Carolina's men's basketball season may not be over, and I've got to give credit to my guy, David Cloninger. He said, hold the funeral in his article this morning, laying things out. Texas defeats Texas A&M in double overtime. Watch that game. That was a heck of a game. Great performance by the Longhorns against their rival, the Aggies. Two really good basketball teams. They win 94-89 in Nashville. According to Joe Lunardi, who does not miss often, that makes Texas the 14th team to get to the big dance from the SEC this year. Well, there's a deal that they signed, or a deal that the ACC and SEC cut with the NIT. The new rules kind of came into effect this year, where the top two teams that don't make the tournament from these leagues end up going to the NIT automatically. Not only that, according to the article from Dave, they are guaranteed a home game. So South Carolina may not only be not done with their men's basketball season, there may be another game at the CLA. So, there's always talk about, let's be clear here. South Carolina finished 2-17. If you count the tournament loss to Arkansas in the SEC, that's a horrendous record. I think that's the worst record they've ever had in the league, if I'm not mistaken. I mean, they've never won less than 3. If I'm trying to go back in time, I don't think they've ever won less than 3. Of course, the league's never been tougher than this year. They've had some good years in the SEC, nothing like this, which is why I don't think this is here to stay. But we've gotten into all of that, with rev share, the money. We're trying not to talk about that. It's Friday, for goodness sakes. Who wants to talk about that? But it appears that South Carolina could end up in the postseason with a 2-17 conference mark and a 12-20 record overall with a home game. Now, it's going to be interesting because Jay Billis, JB Bradford pointed this out on the broadcast the other day. South Carolina's the best last place team he's ever seen. And Jay Billis doesn't candy coat things, as Jamie pointed out on the morning show. So I don't know that South Carolina, if they play like they have at times, especially at home, couldn't win a game or two in advance. I don't know they couldn't win the whole thing, which would be fascinating. That would be one of the ugliest records of all time. Let's just say they did win the NIT. Their final record would be 17-20, but they'd hang a banner in the Colonial Life Arena for the school's third NIT championship. The NIT's changed through the years. I absolutely despised what they did when they let all the regular season champs from every single conference in Division One go. That bothered me. I mean, that ended up being the mid-major invitational. A lot of good teams got left out, including the Gamecocks under Frank Martin multiple times. I mean, people don't remember when Dave Odom won the first NIT back in the day. It was 05. That team was 15-13 before they got into the tournament, and then they finished 20-13. Teams that had that kind of record from the SEC during the Martin era couldn't go. And, in 2015, they had a 17-16 record, could have snuck in. They were 17-16 the year after the Final Four. They were 16-16 the next year and had an 11-7 SEC record. Probably would have gotten in under the old rules. Then there were the two 18-13 teams. There was a pandemic year. Everything got canceled, but then Martin's last team. So Frank could have gone the postseason like, 7 or 8 of the 10 years he was, or 7 of the 10 years he was there. I don't know if that would have changed things because those NIT championship teams, while at the time everybody was like, that's good, but the program really did nothing with them. Not that you can always do something with an NIT championship, but it kind of became a punchline. But, so who knows? The point is I hated the rules, and I thought it made a tournament that was irrelevant become even more irrelevant. It was almost like, taking away decent matchups in bowl games and just giving us the Bahamas Bowl over and over. And a lot of power teams just didn't go. So they changed it back and said, well, we need more power conference teams, obviously. And I think that's fair because of strength of schedule and things like that. And so last season in the NIT, it was the next two teams from every Power 6 conference. There's Power 6 in basketball because you have, well, last year you still had the Pac-12 and you had the Big East in hoops. And this year they kind of just did the ACC and SEC for whatever reason. I don't know what that was based on, but there we go. So 2 auto bids and LSU and the Gamecocks are, as of today, in. Go figure. Now there's talk about they should probably decline it or whatever. They're not going to decline it. I don't think. I think the times you decline for something like this, it's never about principle. It's never about like, well, we don't deserve to go. There's always some other reason, and it usually has to do with tremendous disappointment on the part of a decision by the committee, like St. John's, Patino, and then they turned down an NIT bid last year when they didn't get in, or maybe it was last year because they were close, probably should have gotten it, so that happened. And he went and started building towards the monster he's got this year with the Johnnies. LSU, the year they had Ben Simmons, they had a ton of good players. Johnny Jones was the coach then. They finished 19-14. They said, nah, and I think they fired the coach that year as well. So things like that. It's usually the school's like, well, we're upset about something and we're going to fall on the sword and decline. It's never like, oh, our record wasn't good enough and we don't think teams should be in that have this record, so we're not going to do it. That said, those of you out there that are saying they don't deserve a trip to any postseason with that kind of record, I agree. But we're in 2025 in college sports, and weird things happen that we thought in our minds, we were like, well, that shouldn't happen. Uh, and trust me, losing records are coming for bowl games, in my opinion, especially when it comes to the SEC and the power conferences. And especially if they up the football schedule to 9 SEC games and then a Big Ten challenge or whatever the hell they're trying to do, you're going to see teams with losing records in bowls. And they kind of tested this during COVID. And frankly, when it comes to SEC football and it comes to bowl games, I'll be honest, I've rarely watched the Birmingham Bowl, but I watched Vandy and Georgia Tech this year. I'll be honest, unless it's on and I'm out and playing the numbers or something, I'm rarely watching. But I'll watch it if an SEC team's involved, and so I get it. I get it on that. But that's coming. It is unprecedented. It is a little weird, but here's what I think in general about this, about the debate over whether or not they should take it. They're taking it if they get it. So there's really unless the new AD has like other ideas and it's like, hey, don't play. The arena's open for the home game, according to Dave's report today. It's not going to interfere with the women's basketball team, all that good stuff. So, I mean, they're taking it. But for the folks that say, here's the thing. It's not really about what I say or you think or you feel or I feel or where college sports is. Those are big picture discussions. And I'm kind of with you on how does a 20-loss team get into what's supposed to be the second most prestigious postseason tournament. I'm with you when you think that. I'm with you. But it's about really the players and coaches. And people can say, well, they don't deserve a reward. Unlike a bowl, which is in theory is supposed to be a reward. I don't know how much of a reward the Birmingham Bowl is, but it's supposed to be a reward. In basketball, it's just a chance to go play again and compete. It's a competitive experience, and it's a chance to, I think, you can't change what happened this season with the record. You can't change all the losses. You can't change the needs on the roster. You can't change any of the stuff, the series of unfortunate events, all of the above that happened with this year's team. But you can soften the impact of it by going and playing and winning or not. Hell, they may lose in the first round and everybody laughs. It laughs not at the players, but at the fact they were selected. But you may go, and if you win a couple games and are really good, and keep in mind, this team is 3-0 against ACC competition this year. You go and win, and maybe you make it to Indianapolis in the NIT Final Four. Maybe you win the whole thing. Then that debate becomes, well, they were good enough to compete with anybody in college basketball. They just weren't good enough to compete in the conference. And they lost all these close games. I think what it does is it gives you another point in recruiting to say, hey, look, this was just 1 year. We had some bad things happen as far as not being able to handle the moment in game. And like JB and Mike said yesterday on the morning show, they need some alpha dogs that can handle the moment, because they absolutely could not. But, you go and win, and it's like, oh, well, then it becomes more of that's a function of competition. And then South Carolina actually becomes part of the narrative about this historic year in the SEC. This team lost 20 games and went 2-16, but went to the Final Four of the NIT. That shows you how good it is. So there's a chance to kind of, I don't know, it's not going to erase it, but a chance to make amends. And I tell you, as a player, I would think, that you would want that. Most of the folks would want that opportunity. Keep in mind, this isn't football where it's opt out city. I don't want to go play, blah, 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 blah. The basketball guys, they like to go play ball. They're ballers. They like to go play. Now, there is a chance, according to, again, Dave's wonderful report, that kind of maybe Colin Murray Bulls, if he's going to go to the NBA, would skip the NIT and start going and prepping for the draft. So I suppose that's a possibility. And frankly, without him, I don't know. Yeah. I don't know if they can win a game in the NIT. That's their best player by a mile. And most basketball teams, though, if they don't have their absolute best player, would have problems winning and all that good stuff. But anyway, so there's the NIT thing that's out there. We'll see about it on Selection Sunday. So selections, who knew that we would have a Selection Sunday where the men's team has something to talk about? I mean, wow, this is what a world we live in 2025. I'd like to see the SEC get 14 teams in, though, and I think all of them are deserving. If you look at what the league did in the non-conference, they're all deserving. But I'm sure we'll talk more about this on the show with Phil and myself later today. Big weekend on the Diamond in Columbia, South Carolina. To adjust my glasses here. Gamecocks in baseball. This is a big series. I mean, the opener's always big. But, man, they're 15-3. You've had some moments of concern. Clemson swept you. You've got a gauntlet coming up. I mean, this is a real gauntlet. Getting off to a good start with a series win against the number 12 team in the country would be, I think, go a long way toward getting everybody kind of excited about baseball again. Hopefully there's a big crowd. I don't think anybody that likes Carolina baseball should stay away from the game simply because, if you go to games and you're mad about Clemson and you're not going, that's not the way to look at it. But, and I'm not one that's like, oh, everybody needs to go to the game and click their heels together and wish upon a star. If we just believe, I don't, I'm not that way, but I do think some folks are a little irrational right now. I share concerns about this team. I worry that kind of like in men's basketball, and maybe that's part of the mindset here. They're going to get kind of swallowed up because in baseball, it's just as tough as men's basketball. And I think we knew that about baseball because of Texas and Oklahoma. They're not bringing in, like in football, two teams accustomed to the Big 12 and Oklahoma with a brutal schedule and Texas with an easy schedule and they both kind of have mixed results. I mean, Texas did well, obviously, but a lot of people are going to talk about how they could handle the SEC and all that, man. Go look at who they played in football. I think Texas and OU were probably surprised about basketball because the Big 12 is a hell of a basketball conference. But baseball is just a different animal. I mean, Oklahoma has been gradually coming back to the nation's elite. Texas is always among the nation's elite. And so it's tough. So here's the pitching rotation. First pitch is tonight at 7 on SEC Network Plus, Saturday at 4, Sunday at 1:30. Gamecocks are going to start Brandon Stone. Really like this guy. And he will face Kyson Witherspoon. Really like him too. Witherspoon is a righty. He's 4-0 with a 1.17 ERA. Stone 1-0, a righty with a 1.93 ERA. 23 strikeouts, 3 walks for Stone. 40 strikeouts, 5 walks, and 23 innings pitched for Kyson Witherspoon. I'll say Kyson. Saturdays, Jake McCoy, lefty, 1-1, 4.74 ERA. 19 innings pitched, 8 walkouts, 38 strikeouts. 8 walkouts. Good Lord, JC. 8 walks, 38 strikeouts. He will face Malachi Witherspoon, a junior righty. I'm assuming the brother of Kyson. 2-0, 4.0 ERA, 18 innings pitched, 11 walks, 17 strikeouts. And on Sunday, Dylan Eskew goes senior righty 0-1 with a 1.69 ERA and 16 innings pitched, 19 strikeouts, 12 walks. Cam Johnson, sophomore lefty, so two lefties rolling out there against Carolina for the Sooners, 2-0, 3.93 ERA, 18 innings pitched, 20 strikeouts, 12 walks. Gamecocks have to hit SEC pitching. Softball is Georgia, and go listen to the video with Ashley Chastain Woodard, the interview on Inside the Gamecocks, the morning show yesterday. They will try to snap a 4-game losing streak. On to football, and before that, I will tell you about our friends at Palmetto Golf and Belts, palmettogolfing.com. You got South Carolina stuff, you've got patriotic stuff, you got stuff, Christian-based, faith-based items that look really good. PalmettoGolfing.com. You can get one of those handcrafted belts. They're normally about $150 in the high-end men's stores for $99. That's a deal to get me one. So check those folks out at PalmettoGolfing.com, a proud sponsor of Coffee here with JC Shurburtt. We're going to have a Chief Sports bracket challenge. Look for more information about that, folks. We've got a partner that we've partnered with on that. We're going to have a nice first place prize. And I'll share the details when we're ready to go because they're fixing something on the technical end. But there'll be a first place prize amongst us Gamecocks, and then with cash and some sort of other benefits. And then the team, how this will work is South Carolina, even though they're not in the tournament, you say the collective brackets get a number of points and things like that. And so you compete against other schools, and the team that wins, if South Carolina wins the challenge, then all of you folks, fine folks that are Chief Sports listeners, we're going to have a party because we win a trophy and things like that. So that'll be cool. And then with the company we're partnering with, if you win the whole thing and have the best bracket amongst their users, you win $5,000. So stay tuned for more details on that. Just wanted to tease that. We'll have information all over the place on thebigspur.com and everywhere else. It'll be a wide open all Gamecocks bracket challenge. All right, so spring practice starts next week, next Wednesday, and defensive tackle is a subject that we've talked about quite a bit. And so I got a little update on that. And I think that when you have the transfer portal, you have new players, you're replacing a lot of players. What we say in January is what we think will happen is going to change. And so I felt like I need to update everybody on that. Well, stock up throughout the I guess winter workout period would definitely be Devontae Miles, the player that came from Bowling Green, Detroit, Michigan area player who was committed. Yeah, you look back on it, he was committed to Michigan. I don't know if Michigan dropped him or what, but he ended up at Bowling Green. So that's kind of when a guy's committed to a school like Michigan, then he rock and rolls back. That usually means they say, hey, we think you need to go play at a lower level. And he didn't start at Bowling Green. Yeah, and people were kind of questioning it. Other schools did want him out of the portal. Mississippi State thought they were going to get him, Devontae Miles, and he ended up at Carolina. But starting with Darren Usher's feedback on Inside the Gamecocks, the show, and continuing in my conversations with contacts, and some of the players during interviews have brought it up too. They all talk about Devontae Miles. So I'm going to put him kind of in the, I went through and did the portal additions in tiers, tier 2, maybe on the cusp of tier 2, where I think he should be in the 2 deep. There's just too much positive feedback about him athletically. That said, I'm gonna go ahead and say, all right, I'm a little more confident this guy is going to make an impact. which is good because at D tackle right now, you're looking for talent, but you're also looking for numbers. You're looking for enough to eat snaps, and so Travian Robertson can have a rotation like he did last year, and then you're hopeful your starters end up being good, and all that good stuff. We've talked about that. So you're looking for numbers. So I kind of move him up a position as far as the rotation goes. Very promising, but as we all know, the pads have to come on. Now this is a player who's played college football, so unlike Elijah Caldwell a few years ago, and for those that don't know, he was a wide receiver out of Northwestern that they took late before the 2023 season in what they call the underwear Olympics, out there in shorts, t-shirts, running around playing football. He looked fantastic. Pads came on, no, buried on the depth chart, red shirt. Didn't help. And had he been the least little bit ready to go in 2023, he would have played. So sometimes that changes dramatically with a freshman. It's rare that you get a guy that played at another school and he gets in and he starts practice and he's been through college football. And Bowling Green played Penn State last year. They played Texas A&M. He's played against tough competition. So it's rare that he puts the pads on and you're like, oh, well. Also, maybe Travian Robertson may coach out of him the reason he wasn't starting at Bowling Green. Maybe it was the Bowling Green scheme. Who knows? I think it's important, obviously, to figure out why he wasn't starting at Bowling Green. I think it's important also to not be NFL level arrogant, and this coaching staff isn't. And when I say NFL level arrogant, I'm like, well, I can save him. I can draft this terrible quarterback, Anthony Richardson. I can make him into an All-Pro. Watch Anthony Richardson be an All-Pro in a couple of years. I'll be on Cold Takes Exposed for that. But no, I mean, I didn't think Anthony Richardson was worth the fourth pick in the draft. And frankly, as someone that follows the Gamecocks, covers the Gamecocks, and is high on Lenore Sellers, I was offended that Brian Kelly compared Lenore Sellers to Anthony Richardson, because I think Lenore Sellers is already a better quarterback than Anthony Richardson. He's just got a lot more upside. That's a different debate. But you don't want to be NFL arrogant and be like, well, I could take this kid that wasn't playing at the smaller school and I can make him into a star. And they're not. The staff is not. But they see something in him. And look, you can get guys go other places and they're like, wow, he's really flourished here. A lot about football sometimes is about, I mean, look at Juice Wells. I mean, we kind of laugh about Juice Wells because of the way he left and all that good stuff and a lot of the consistencies he get. But I mean, he went to a program that throws the ball more, that is tailor made for good wide receivers, that is set up with a lot of other receivers around him to where he's doesn't have to be the number one guy, and arguably got worse. Go figure. Their guy Michael Godwine was at Alabama, not playing, and came here and got better. And in our minds, I think we look, oh, this is just Alabama. They're just stocked. But sometimes it's a case of, hey, it's just not a good fit. And what star? They got this player here. Sometimes coaches in college do play favorites. Miles could have been stuck behind the guy that's, Charlie Champion chest that, does everything. Why did you put that weapon together so quickly, Gump? That kind of guy. And who knows is my point. But I don't think you can be NFL arrogant about it. I don't think Travian Robertson is, but I do think Travian can develop talent. And if there's raw athleticism and talent there to the point where people are talking about him in winter workouts, I think that's worth a stock up. I also think now that we found out Gabriel Brownlow-Dendy had an ACL injury, nobody knew that. At least in Gamecock land didn't. Before he went to A&M, he suffered it in the Under Armour game. and got behind. And then there was a coaching change. And then you look at guys like Shamar Stewart and people like that in their defensive scheme this past year. You kind of get a sense of why he wasn't playing at Texas A&M. And that's not to say he wouldn't have played this year. I look at this guy and I'm like, I understand why he were rated 5 stars. I mean, he is a 6'3.5", 305-pound guy. There's not much fat on his body at all. And you look back in high school, he's a multi-sport athlete. He's quick twitch. Travian Robertson, if Gabriel Brownlow-Dindy, if it is just like, hey, I got behind, I was hurt, I'm healthy now, let's roll. And as long as he takes to coaching and all that, as long as there's not something else there, like, yeah, he's not coachable or something like that, which they vet these guys for that. Yeah, I'm almost to the point, hopefully after spring practice, we get there, where this guy could really come in and be a big deal. I'm kind of a big deal. Also, I like the kid when he interviewed. I'll just be honest. That doesn't mean much as far as football goes, but I like the fact he wants to be a preacher. I like the fact his hero's Reggie White. Most young kids nowadays don't even know who the heck Reggie White was. So I think that's kind of neat about the guy. And it just reinforces that, Carolina, Beamer and his staff, they do as good of a job as possible at evaluating guys that fit personality to the program. And these days, I think that helps you win. I don't know that it always has. I don't know that it always has, but I think now the culture word people use is very applicable because of the transient nature of rosters. So you have him, Michael Goodwine having a good off season. What I'm told, Nick Barrett is back up to 315, 320. I think he played better when he was a bigger guy. And he's not a fat guy either, but he's a player that you look forward to kind of saving his best for last. And then Xavion Hardy, everybody should be excited about him and his future and all that. And with the new JUCO rules, heck, who knows how many? I don't know how many years of eligibility he has left. Right now, that's very confusing. But athletically, he's right there. It's just kind of like we've been talking about with JUCOs. They don't have the nutrition. They don't have the strength program. They have the resources. But I have a sneaky suspicion that as long as Hardy works and gets there, and then there's the football part of it and spring practice with Travian and all that, I think he could be fine. I mean, look at the physical transformation Dylan Stewart, for example, had when he got to Carolina. And again, Dylan came from a place with not a lot of resources. I've been to Friendship Collegiate Academy in Washington, D.C. Went there to see Eddie Goldman. You remember Eddie Goldman that played for Florida State and played for the Bears, 5-star defensive tackle. Went there to see him as a high school player. One of the most interesting trips to a school I've ever had. But they don't have nutrition. I mean, it's a good school that puts out players. The coaches do a great job, but it's not like it's, good counsel over there in Olney, Maryland, in the D.C. area, or, someplace like that. So Dylan, look, same kind of situation, really. So I'm not predicting Xavion Hardy will be as good as Dylan Stewart. There's a difference in talent there and difference in position. But I think Luke Day and Chip Morton and his staff, Jamil Walker, they have whatever they did between 2023 and getting ready for 2024. Keep doing that because that's working. That's working. It was very noticeable, the work and the transformations that multiple Gamecocks made between the end of 2023 and the first of 2024. And they're going to have to do that at D-tackle. There is a holistic approach to building D-tackles to thus rebuild the room this year. And a little bonus, I was hanging out on social media the other day and Christian Ingram is not in yet, but I saw him doing some bag drills and agility. That guy could move to be 6'6", 300. I mean, really looked good. I'm not saying he'll play this year. I'm saying 6'6", 300 moves like that, put him in the development pipeline under Travian Robertson, and let's see what happens. So, I mean, I don't know who's going to start. I still think Goodwine and Barrett will be the first to walk out there in spring practice. I'd really keep an eye on Brownlow Dindy as far as what we think of when we think of a TJ Sanders type of guy, right? If he can be TJ Sanders next year, that's you're cooking at that point. Um, I, as far as Devontae Miles goes, more high on him based on feedback than I was. And then, Barrett's got the weight on it. Hardy, we've talked about all that. So we'll see what happens, folks. But I just wanted to update the D tackle spot on that. The D tackle spot on that. What am I saying? I just wanted to update the D tackle spot for you because spring practice is starting and we got to tie up these loose ends, this talk, because now we're going to get to talk about it for real. And everything's going to change. Not a whole lot, but it'll change, as we all know. I want to wish everybody a wonderful weekend, St. Patrick's Day weekend. It's always fun. I think that it could be a fun holiday for sure. And in Columbia, I had a lot of good times on St. Patrick's Day. Best day of the year. Anyway, keep an eye out for Monday's episode of Coffee, and we may be talking about the NIT and Women's March Madness, reflecting on baseball, and then, of course, as always on Coffee, a football topic. Hope everyone has a wonderful time, and this is JC Shurburtt. This has been Coffee, signing out. Holla at you soon.